Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be working on Junior's Roush 380R. We're going to be figuring out what the crank supercharger pulley is making a little bit of noise and moving a little bit. So we're going to figure out what is wrong with it. Stay tuned.
Music bed.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is just jack it up so that we have room underneath, because we have to get underneath the car, pretty much both. So the way this system works is kind of similar to the Terminators, where you have your regular drive and then it has another pulley on the front, the drive supercharger, alternator, and then it's just a tensioner and a bunch of idlers here. So we're gonna have to take the belt off and pretty much take this whole front bracket off the engine to get that pulley off on the bottom. So this big bracket here holds the whole pulley, and then the pulley, there's separate bolts that you can remove it from the bracket separately, but pretty much we have to remove everything to pull it off enough forward that we can actually take the pulley out of the front. So we're gonna start by the tensioners right up here. So taking the 1/2" ratchet right up here, taking the belt off, and then just start taking these bolts that go to the block pretty much. So there's a few throughout, and take them all off. I think we're gonna have to move some brackets like the power steering reservoir out of the way, this bracket here, things like that. So let's get to it, see if we can figure out why the noise is going on and why it's moving a little bit. We done a video on doing those bushings, kind of, you know, a way that you can actually replace them. There, it's the video somewhere a while back we did it, but I think this time there's gonna be a little bit more, because I think either the pulley's just loose or the bearing that's in the middle of that shaft on the outer pulley is bad. So we'll have to figure that out, and we're might as well gonna change those bushings since we're in there. So let's see what's going on. Okay, so underneath the car here, you know, I took off this little bracket here. This little curved bracket goes from this part of the bracket into the alternator, which actually we were missing a bolt. From what I can tell so far is this is loose in here. I think this is supposed to be tight, and then the bearing in this pulley is supposed to spin. So somehow this came loose. I don't know if it's because that bearing started to get, you know, tight and then it just spun everything, but I try to tighten up this a little bit. It's really tight in here, so I'm gonna take it out and then maybe look at it, inspect it, and then use an impact or something, because I can't really get a wrench in here. The bushings do look okay as they are actually, so I think this other part being loose is what the noise was, the problem. So I'm gonna loosen these bolts, and the nice thing is we can take the fan off, but then we have to take like the coolant reservoirs off. But I do have, you can do a 1/4" ratchet since it's shorter, or I have these pretty cool ratchet with the sockets that, instead of, you know, they're a little bit shallower and actually fits right in there. So get these bolts out, and then, because that way when we pull the whole front bracket forward, we just need to pull it maybe about 1 inch, and that way we can actually just pull this, because this part here holds this pulley, and we can pull this all the way out, but this one has to pull off enough to get the pulley out of these pins that are on the crank. So I'm gonna do that. Probably lose all the bolts that go around, you know, to hold it to the block and then get it all out. Okay, so to get that pulley off, as you can see here, we separated this whole bracket forward. On this side, you just have to maneuver. The alternator is held onto this front bracket, so you just kind of have to push it forward. There's a bunch of lines here and everything that kind of make it hard. And then underneath, you just have to also pull it at the same time. Let me show you down here. You just kind of pull it, you know, till you can get, because that pulley is right in these studs right here. There's 3, but this one keeps it from coming out. So you just kind of force it till you can get it out. If you are gonna take this whole thing off, then I would recommend draining your coolant, taking the coolant hose off, radiator fan, and then you can just take this whole bottom piece off. You're gonna have to probably take the alternator off the bracket because I don't think you can take it off all as one piece, but if you did want to take this whole piece off. But now that we have this pulley out here, and I mean, it's kind of a little bit of wear, but actually it hasn't been that long, I think, since we did these. So
Dallas.
So those are still good, but this is the problem here. So
Hold it.
yeah, go ahead and hold it, but you can see, let's see if this angle,
You can more hear it too.
you can probably see where, so pretty much the pulley, I shouldn't be able to turn this like this. This should be solid, and then there's a bearing in here that lets this turn. So I don't know what happened where this got loose, or like, you know. So what we're gonna do is probably take this nut off and just inspect everything, make sure that this bearing like turns. I mean, I think it does, but I don't know why this would have gone loose, because this nut is not loose. I tried to put a wrench in here and hold it, and it's not loose. It's pretty tight, but somehow this got loose where it's, you know, this thing turns, but also it makes it so the pulley can move, you know. With the belt in there and everything, I mean, it moves.
There's
back and
also a
forth.
gap right there.
Yeah, and that's because it's loose. So we're gonna take this out and then just see what we're able to figure out, and hopefully just put it back together. So, okay, so we got the car all back together. So what we figured out is we took that nut apart, and because we didn't know why it was loose, we cleaned up everything, put it back together tight, and once we did that, Junior spun the pulley and you could hear noise from that bearing. So that main bearing on the main supercharger pulley on the bottom is, you know, it's just making noise, a little bit of grinding. So I don't know if at some point it was just too dry, and, you know, when he was driving it, it kind of wanted to get locked up, and it made the whole thing kind of spin and loosened it a little bit. That nut was so tight. I mean, my impact, I have a really strong impact, and it took a long time to get it out. I don't see how, you know, it would have gone loose, but I don't know, because I know when I owned this car, the compressor locked up solid, and instead of, you know, normally maybe like your belt just kind of breaks, or, you know, your engine stalls, I know the engine just powered through that bearing. And I mean, I remember looking underneath and there was like molten metal coming out of the compressor because it was just going through the bearing. So maybe just, you know, the power of the engine just kind of powered through the bearing getting stuck, and it just made it a little loose where it would spin, and then at that point it just kept spinning. I don't know. So what we ended up doing, and I forgot to film it, but I just put a little bit of grease in the bearing. I took it apart and put some high temp grease in it, shoved it in there, spun it a bunch of times, kept pushing it, and then just put there's like a seal around the bearing, so put it back in there. And let me see, I don't know, I was gonna show a bearing, but anyways, after I spun it along a lot of times and kept kind of pushing the grease in, it stopped making the noise. I mean, it's really, really quiet. So we put it back together for now. We have the part number off the bearing. Junior's gonna order one. And then at some point, if it does, the noise gets louder or if it gets loose again, we will take it apart and put a new bearing and do that. So, and I'll have Junior put the bearing number on the description and also the part number to that pulley. If anyone is looking for one, at least you can get that bearing. Or if someone out there does have, for some reason, that pulley, that whole assembly, reach out. Junior might want to buy that. So what we're going to do now is you're just going to start it up. We're just going to make sure that that pulley is not dancing around there at the bottom. And then that's it for this repair anyways.